Cardinal Siri theory, that claims that he was actually elected, but there was some tampering with the election, and so basically he was then overthrown by the Cardinals, and then they elected John the 23rd in 1958, and so John the 23rd and all future popes after that are illegitimate. A good summary of this actually comes from True or False Pope by Robert Sisko. John Salzov had both of them on the show multiple times. Here's a good quick summary that they give. I'll read it to you. The Siri theory. This theory maintains that Cardinal Giuseppe Siri, 1906 to 1989, the former Archbishop of Genoa, was elected Pope in 1958 in the conclave that eventually elected Cardinal Angelo Roncalli, John the 23rd. But he was forced to resign during the conclave. They maintained that the forced resignation was invalid, and that Cardinal Siri, to whom they attribute the name Pope Gregory XVII, remained the true pope until his death in 1989. Some go further by claiming that he has since been succeeded by hidden popes, thus they get to have their cake and eat it too. That's a pretty unique perspective. Many sedevacantists don't hold to that. A true pope was elected while a false pope led the church into heresy. Okay, that's the claim. As far as the smoke and all of that, let's just go ahead and take his claim there at face value and assume that that story is true, that you had white smoke and then black smoke and white smoke. Let's just go ahead and take that at face value for the moment. Here's some problems, and it's just a few, with the Siri theory. Number one, Cardinal Siri himself accepted Pope John the 23rd as Pope. Not only that, he was fully on board with Vatican II. So if Cardinal Siri was actually elected Pope, but somehow there was some tampering behind the scenes, he would not have accepted John the 23rd. He would have known that's a lie. And he wouldn't have been bound to some kind of pontifical secret to say that actually he was elected, because in this case, the Pope is not bound to that. M in the chat says, Lofton wants to keep everyone united to the false church. No. Anyways, Cardinal Siri accepts John the 23rd as Pope and accepts the Second Vatican Council, again, 1962 to 1965. This set of Sedevacantists, including Mel, maintained that Vatican II teaches heresy. If Cardinal Siri was really the Pope, why did he then embrace heresy? Wouldn't he be the bastion of orthodoxy if this theory is true? Wouldn't he have fought against this parallel church that established itself allegedly at Vatican II and in John the 23rd and his successors? So we got some problems there. Also, the theory obviously relies on a lot of speculation that you can't really verify at the end of the day. How are you going to verify that he was actually elected? And is this something you really want to rest your eternal security on? Something that really, the claim can't be substantiated at the end of the day. At that point, you can hold anything. Right? Another point. According to Catholic dogma, it's not possible for the entire Catholic Church to follow a false pope. You might have groups of Catholics here and there who follow a false pope, an anti-pope. But the whole church as a whole, cannot follow a false pope. And yet, the entire College of Bishops and 99.9999999% of Catholics in the world embraced John the 23rd as Pope and his successors. And the claim of sedevacantism didn't even come up at that time. It came up later to try to explain the madness that was going on in the post-conciliar period. So again, this all has to assume something that is contrary to a dogma. So it has to actually assume a heresy. But if the sedevacantists are trying to get away from heresy, they can't use heresy to fight against heresy. Another point, it's contrary to the traditional doctrine of universal and peaceful acceptance of a pope. This notion of the Siri theory, If the church accepted John the 23rd, that heals in the root any defects that took place in the election. That's a traditional Catholic teaching that you can find well established in the preconciliar period. So here's Cardinal Bio, who expresses it thusly. From the moment in which the Pope is accepted by the Church and united to her as the head to the body, it is no longer permitted to raise doubts about a possible vice of election or a possible lack of any condition whatsoever necessary for legitimacy. He's saying you can no longer say that, well, there is some tampering, with the election. For the aforementioned adhesion of the church heals in the root all fault in the election. So it heals in the root any defect and improves infallibly the existence of all the required conditions. So that's a doctrine that you find in the preconciliar period that goes against this notion that Mel is presenting here. So it would be necessary at the least for people like Mel to interact with those doctrines. One last point. I did find it interesting that Mel Gibson's own father rejects the Cardinal Siri thesis. Not that that shows that it's false, but it is interesting, right? His own father, who he learned a lot of this material from, rejects it. Here's an interview he had with Inside the Vatican. And it says, thus it is, the elder Gibson says, to ITV, that the Siri thesis simply isn't true and must be discarded. It seems at one point his father did embrace the Siri theory, but then realized too many problems were involved with it and abandoned it. And I would just simply point Mel to his own father and his position on that. I think he's right. The Siri thesis has to be abandoned.
Hey, thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed the content. Don't forget to hit the subscribe button, the like button, and if you want to support the channel, visit patreon.com/Reason and Theology.